February 13th was our first sit-in Nashville. On this sit-in, we had about 130 kids. I think on this day, many of us didn't realize just how important our movement would grow to be.
The targets of the Nashville students were the lunch counters at the city's 2 largest department stores and 4 variety stores. And for the first time, the community was confronted with Negroes in places where they had never been.
You go to a counter. You do not request that the person sitting next to you get up and leave. You merely come in and sit down beside him, as any human being would do. You cause no violence. You have no angry words. You're friendly, and it sort of helps to project the idea that here sits beside me another human being.
Altogether, it was a moving feeling within me that I was sitting there demanding a God-given right, and my soul became satisfied that I was right in what I was doing. At the same time, with something deep down within me, moving me, that I could no longer be satisfied or go along with an evil system. I had to be maladjusted to it. And in spite of all of this, I had to keep loving the people who denied me service, who stared at me.
During the early weeks of February 1960, the demonstrations that came to be called the sit-in movement exploded across the South. Within a period of 2 months, the movement had spread to 65 cities involving every southern state, with the exception of Mississippi. The new tactic came as a surprise, creating bewilderment and confusion in the white communities and even among the Negroes themselves.
I think that people who strive to gain social acceptance through although they're called nonviolent or passive resistance, they're the most violent. I also think that it is in violation to my civil rights. If someone can say, you must serve me, if a man owns an eating establishment, if he can't choose whom he pleases to serve or not to serve, that can affect me and you and anyone else.
I would say that they should examine the white person very closely first to see whether or not they're going about it in the right way. Now, if I'm a businessman and people that I do not want in my business insist on either coming in or boycotting, which is their perfect right to do, then certainly it's not going to make me love them.
Breaking bread is essentially a family custom, almost a sacrament. Now, when you claim that you have been denied equal rights in participating in something that is regarded as a family custom or sacrament, and insist on being recognized, you're getting into dangerous ground, and ground that can be misconstrued, and in which you can be wrong. Now, the people in the South have always fed people who came and knocked at the back door and asked for something to eat. But they have always reserved the right to eat only with invited guests.
I have thought for a long time that Negroes should be allowed to sit at the counters where we're served downtown. This is just a part of many things that I think they should be allowed to do. I have felt that it really was not fair for them to be served in the stores as customers and not be allowed certain services, denied certain services within those same stores.
It's just like one snake is like a snake of his own kind bending with another, maybe. Something like that. I mean, a lion might like another lion bending with a bear. That's just like white people and Negroes. I mean, white people naturally don't like white people better than Negroes.
Well, it's just not the things we're used to down here. I mean, they come in and they sit down, and we're not used to them sitting down beside us, because I wasn't raised with them. I never have lived with them, and I'm not going to start now.
During the weeks after the sit-ins began, opposition in the white communities of the South solidified, and the first signs of violence appeared. Those few whites who sympathized publicly with the sit-ins soon found themselves to be prime targets. One of these was a young divinity student in Nashville, Wilson Yates.
Well, I was downtown with a friend around Memorial Square. I'd actually gone back to put a nickel in the meter. My car happened to be parked by Memorial Square where the picketing was going on. And suddenly, we moved into a different world. There were the crowds shouting, "Niggers go home," and then there were the Negro students who were carrying posters asking for equal opportunity. And being thrown in the situation of the crisis, I had to act, and I had no other choice than to respond as I did. So I walked over and I asked the Negroes if it would help or harm if I carried a poster. They said it would help. Right before I went over, some white boys had entered the ring carrying derogatory posters like "Go home, coon," and "Send the bunnies home." And I entered the ring, and I started walking around. I was with a friend. One of the white boys walked over to this friend. He said something to him.
I told him when he come around on the white side, I just gonna hit him one time.
Here I was in the raw, walking around a square carrying a poster which said "Equal rights for all." And the crowds on each side yelling, "Get rid of the nigger lover, tell the nigger lover to go home," and they were referring to me. The boy came towards me. He cursed me out.
Yeah, because he was white, taking up for the nigger. That really got me over there when them two white boys started carrying signs for the niggers over there.
And then the momentum began to build from the crowd, and they said, "Hit the nigger lover, hit the nigger lover." And then there's that strange, long, lonely feeling where you're waiting for something to happen, and you don't know what's going to happen, but somehow, down deep, you're ready for it. And he walked up behind me.
I reached and grabbed that Yates boy and just see how hard I could hit him.
He hit me in the back of the neck. I lurched forward, but I didn't fall. I regained my balance, and then in the midst of it, with the shouting and the jeering and the crowd of people, I suddenly felt this tremendous humiliation. Suddenly, I had crossed into another race. I had moved into a different world. I was a Negro feeling all of the rejection and humiliation he must have to go through every time he's rejected.
On the morning of the 27th, this was to be our first real violent day. It was the first time when we could really test our own convictions as far as nonviolent means were concerned. 5 ministers said to us, "If you go downtown today, you're going to be arrested. Please don't go downtown because we're not prepared. We should have community behind us." Paul LaPrade, he was one of the few white students who were with us. They always pick on the white students because they hate to see white sympathizers.
I saw a bunch of coloreds sitting on the stools. They looked like a bunch of idiots sitting up there waiting for people to try to throw them off, and they looked like they were just trying to egg on a fight.
None of us looked back, but yet we could see everything that was going on through the long mirror. And it seems to me that when it happened, that all of us wanted to be hit. This was an experience that we needed to keep our movement going, to keep ourselves going, and to convince ourselves that we really were nonviolent.
On February 27th, was on Saturday afternoon, I was cruising down Fifth Avenue. In front of McClellan's, a man came out and said that there was a fight on the inside. There had been a disturbance, but there was a bunch of colored boys and girls on the stools and the counters, and the management asked that they leave, and I instructed him to ask them to leave, and they did not leave. I went and asked each and every one of them separately to leave, They didn't leave, so I instructed the men to place them under arrest. We placed them under arrest.
The policemen, they gave me an alternative. They said, son, you can sit here on the stool and act a fool, or you can get up and go home. And I made my choice. I decided that I would keep my seat. And they told me I was under arrest, and then they took me away.
When we cleared the stools, some more colored boys and girls and white boys and girls got on the seats. When we told them that they were under arrest and they had to leave, well, they got up. But as far as having anything personal against them or anything against them because they were either black or white, we arrested in this crowd several white boys and girls. It was just a case where we had to clean this man's store out, and we did it.
I'm C.E. Warren, turnkey at City Jail. I've never seen anything like it when they brought these kids in.
On February 27th, 80 Nashville students were arrested out of over 300 who were participating in the sit-ins that day. The first of a series of wholesale arrests throughout the South.
You're in jail. You're joking. Man, what my mother gonna say when she hear about that?
The mother of 2 students who were in jail.
Well, there was plenty of anxiety on my part, but I always think of what Matthew Jr. told me. And when he called from the jail, he said, "Be cool, mother." And that was very trying, and yet it was amusing too. He's telling me to be cool at this point. So even now, when I think of it, I get quite a bit of fun out of it. Just hearing him say it, I can't say it as he said it, but he said, "Be cool, mother." And I tried to be cool. So I felt, though, that there would be safety for them, because I felt that our faith in God would help to bring them through this safely.